Hello and welcome to Sweet Home California. My name is Jennifer, and I apologize for not having recent episodes of Rainbows and Silver Linings rebroadcast over here on my channel. But if you missed out, you could have gone over to This Way Network. But I do encourage you to go over there and subscribe as well, because there's a lot of other creators that are on This Way Network also that has some great content. There's William Archibald and Shannon from Devoted Patriots, and Matt from Matt in Exile, Dave from Dave in Cali, and of course Michael from Sweet Home Maricopa. So a number of things over there. So please go over there and subscribe. I will put a link down below. But in any case, without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce. This would be episode 8 with Stephen from Sweet Home Freedom. And he had spent a number of years in Germany as an American, helping to raise his son, and now he is back in the States, and I believe in California. So in any case, he's got some interesting perspectives to add, and you'll want to go ahead and subscribe to his channel as well, and there'll be a link down below. Anyhow, without further ado, episode 8 of Rainbows and Silver Linings. Thanks for watching. Hello and welcome to another episode of Rainbows and Silver Linings. My name is Jennifer, and you can watch me on a daily basis over at Sweet Home California. We talk about all sorts of things, politics and prepping over there. But on this show here on This Way Network, we try and find those silver linings. We try and find that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and we are focused also on God, because without him we wouldn't have anything, and the rainbow is his promise that he's not going to destroy us by flood, and hopefully we're going to follow his ways and not give him any reason to not give us divine intervention here. But we're not doing what he wants us to do, so we're running into problems here. Anyhow, let me bring on our next guest, and we'll steer this conversation back towards the positive. I've got Stephen, and he has spent the last 18 years in Germany, so he's got an interesting perspective, having been out of the country for so long. And he has got his own channel called Sweet Home Freedom, and really want to help get him off the ground on that. But without further ado, let's bring in Stephen. Hello.
Hello, Jennifer.
Sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but yeah, part of the reason why I named the show Rainbows and Silver Linings, when the rainbow is such a symbol right now of everything that's wrong, I think, with our culture, with the LGBTQ plus to whatever other alphabet they want. But and they took that, they stole that symbol of Christianity and Judaism from us, and I just
I never knew that.
I kind of want to bring it back. And the rainbow is supposed to be a sign of hope given to us by the Lord, and I want to bring it back to that meaning again. So that's why I named the show Rainbows and Silver Linings. But
I like it.
Thank you. I'm not so good off script here. I just kind of and everything. So we're just going to go with it. But you reached out to me when I had just gotten started, sometime in August or whatever, and I had gotten started in July. And I remember you reaching out to me and saying, "Hey, fellow, Sweet Homer, let's get together and kind of network here." And networking is so important on YouTube. And I know that you've had quite a busy last few months. So kind of let's take it from there. So what have you been doing the last few months, and what brought you back to US from Germany?
Well, thanks, Jennifer. And it's a pleasure to finally speak to you in person here. We've only emailed each other back and forth over that period of time, and I've paid attention to what you were doing and how active you've become, and how your personality has changed in front of the camera to really get your message out there, as well as to bring hope, because it's so important to have hope. I'm a 29-year sober or recovered alcoholic, and it's about having hope in body, mind, and spirit, as opposed to being hopeless. That was the state I was in when I, finally decided to get sober. So to have hope in, what's going on in the world right now with inflation, with possible food shortages, which may happen, they may not. Some Americans could, use a little less food, so maybe it's a good thing.
The forced
And,
diet, yes.
right, as well as, most of the foods that are produced are garbage and have too much sugar and preservatives. So, manufactured foods, maybe it's not a bad thing that it's being disrupted. So many of the things can have hope if we look for it, for what's a positive result. And that's having an open mind, being able to reduce the amount of fear. We were talking before the show about being able to tell the difference between truth and propaganda. And it's really easy to tell, propaganda, because it's using a lot of emotional words to generate fear. And when we're scared, we can't think. We react. With fight or flight, rather than responding from training in a healthy way, or just to sit back and take a moment, pause, breathe, remember God is in control and we are part of that if we believe it, and then take loving actions. But it requires thought and patience. So over the last few months, I actually, in coming back to America from Germany, I thought it was such a great idea that, there was a shortage of truck drivers. And I used to truck drive 20 years ago before I moved to Germany to help raise my son, who was born here in California. And that's where I'm at the moment, in Southern California. And, I was devastated without him, and me and his mother were not married, but I wanted him to have a father. And, I went back and forth for a year or so until I made the decision to stay there. And 18 years passed so quickly.
Oh.
And living in Germany was really interesting. Being an American, loving America and all the different things that we have here. No country is perfect, but the opportunities we have here are, unequal to many others. So in being in Germany and them pretending that they're happy, whereas most people were complaining on a daily basis about whatever, but then they say they're really happy. Like, no, you're not happy when you complain all the time. And the culture was very stressed. Alcohol.
They're very stoic. The Germans are a stoic people. So yeah, I can see where, they want to put a bright face on everything to outsiders, but then you get them behind closed doors and they're like, not so much.
In trying to help people with alcoholism over there, I realized there was a lot of unresolved mental, emotional abuse, sexual abuse that has been passed on for generations throughout their history of warring tribes. And then after 2 world wars on the continent, Europe has a lot of unresolved issues.
Yeah.
Maybe the deep state, because World War I started around the time of the Federal Reserve and, the Wartburgs and the Rothschilds starting the central bank system, starting in Germany. So it's all mixed. There was a lot of money to be made in starting wars, and still. So
it still is, yes.
But there were also a lot of people who were open-minded, and I had to seek them out. And they were, there are friendly people there, and, I had a good time. My son is a wonderful kid. He's a lot more responsible and go-getter than I was at his age. But coming back here, I thought I'd come back and just work a bit and save, as much cash as I could before the shit hits the fan now. And it didn't work out. I started truck driving and realized I may be a little older to not be able to handle it at this moment, or maybe that's not what God had in store for me. And it was really uncomfortable and scary at times to drive over snowy and ice covered mountains in Wyoming and Utah a couple months ago. And I put an end to it. And I've been looking for something else. But in the meantime, coming here and seeing what's going on with, trying to create a 24-hour news channel connected to Michael's and, and the Sweet Home movement. I'm still interested in getting the channel going, but I also been in touch with a guy named Bobby, where we're been talking a lot about the principles of the Declaration of Independence, which define our freedoms, the unalienable rights that we have to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which means being productive. Having the freedom to do what we desire and being productive at that. But we're seeing that the constitutional restrictions on government are now focused on restricting us. And we want to turn that around to where we monitor and audit the government, what they're doing, the people that work there, because, and, one of the things that me and Bobby wanted to talk about, I've been reading James Turk's latest book on money and liberty, that the current monetary system that we have worldwide with using fiat currencies is a debt-based system to enslave us, and the tax system started the same time the Federal Reserve was started here in this country, creating notes. They took all the money out of our hands, the gold and the silver, out of our hands, and gave us pieces of paper, which is completely fraudulent. So that whole system allows whoever's in charge to spend all that money first, or that currency, get graft from it. So they send it to all around the world and then pull back.
All about kickbacks, huh? And, who and who you're connected to. That's why money begets money and the poor stay poor.
Right. So there are some, honorable, wealthy people and rich. And it's not healthy to use absolutes in what we say. And this was something I paid attention to, using Martin Seligman's learned optimism to help people go from being depressed and angry and, emotional to being at least neutral or happy, and the same thing with propaganda, are things being stated pessimistically, permanently, and pervasively. Negatively is easy, pessimistic. Permanent, it's always this way and always will be. And pervasive, it affects everything. But if you listen,
would that be something like to say, you're down and out, to say I'm poor versus I'm broke?
Well, right, poor is permanent in a state of mind.
Yeah,
and at the moment,
I don't have any money.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Specific. So this technique is for us to take what's happening and describe it neutrally. I drop a glass of milk. Okay, dropped a glass of milk. Oh man, I'm such a klutz. Why did I do that? That was the last cup of milk that I had, and I'm really hungry. I got to go to work. Man, why do I always do this? I'm such a jerk. People talk that way to themselves. I used to. And you get a negative, stressed out response. Now, propaganda is designed that way, as well as many people think this way, as well as the German culture thinks this way on a daily basis.
So then it doesn't take as much to kind of push them over the edge then.
No, exactly. And that's what propaganda is used for, is to manipulate people. And, what we're seeing the propagandists do, and the deep state, is state what other people are doing, what they're doing. And if you pay attention to that, they're saying Trump worked with Russia. Well, wait a second. No, it was Hillary Clinton that worked with Russia. So you got to pay attention to the details there and see if it's twisted. So the positive side that can bring a lot of hope to people is turn it around 180 degrees. Wow, I don't normally drop a glass of milk. It happens. Maybe I'll ask my neighbor. I haven't talked to my neighbor in a while. I'll go say hi and see if I can borrow a glass of milk. If we just make it positive, temporary, specific, we feel so much better. So that's something that if nobody's practiced, it only takes a couple of times practicing that technique and then try to remember it and speak that way. No drugs, no antidepressants, no therapy. It literally takes a short period of time. And this information's been around for like 40, 50 years. And
I've heard that often you need 20 to 30 days to break a bad habit.
Sure. Right.
Because it is ingrained, and it's hard to start thinking positively if you've always been down on yourself. But in terms of trying to find that bright side, oh,
Mhm.
well, I dropped a glass of milk. Oh, let me go talk to my neighbor. Let me tell you a quick example of how something like that happened in my neighborhood. We have an old home built in the 1940s,
Mhm.
totally, kind of dilapidated building. The the wife that the husband had passed away. The wife moved in with her kids. So this building, just a couple acres from me, was sitting vacant for a couple of years. And one
Mhm.
of my other neighbors is in communication, keeps in touch with them, keeps an eye on it. Anyhow, it was found out that some burglars came in. They took the entire wall out of the building and
Oh, wow.
stole the safe. There's nothing
Hmm.
in the safe, but they
Right.
totally destroyed this house in trying to get at the safe through a wall. So yeah, totally negative situation, and we got us all on edge because, I mean, my goodness, they were within a stone's throw of houses that had people in it. What would have happened, if somebody confronted them? Were they tweakers? Were they armed? What would have happened if my neighbor, who is, like, hey, I'll take care of the situation, and what if he had been there to try and take care of the situation? Um,
Right.
but on the positive side, we're all talking to each other. So I've lived here about 3 years, and I know so many more people in my neighborhood than
Mm.
I knew the last place I lived for 10 years. I have their phone numbers, I have their email addresses, I know who, the husband and wife, how many kids they've got, and we've had some coffee get-togethers with some of the women. We've had, where we go out to a restaurant and with the different neighbors. So, yeah, we had this
Mm.
really bad negative thing that happened in our community, but the positive side is that we're getting to know our neighbors a whole lot better to try and make sure that this doesn't happen in the future.
And luckily, nobody got hurt in the
Yes.
process. So maybe that was God's way of getting you guys together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give you, and sometimes it is going to cost somebody something.
Mhm.
But if we didn't lose our lives, if we didn't, if nobody was hurt, then okay, it's just stuff.
It's just stuff. Yeah.
It's just stuff. And, that memory of it, happening in, a robbery, because I think one of the things that I had in changing belief systems of being scared that the world was a scary place. And I
Mhm.
always had this anxiety, and living in Germany, being brainwashed here in the States for the World War II propaganda that was still active in the 60s when I
Mhm.
grew up as a kid. I had this anxiety going over to Germany, but, it never really went away 100%. But as soon as I just get out there and interact with people, it would go away.
Mhm.
So, in being able to look at the bright side of things, we can always find it if we're looking. And that's what's amazing about God's universe, is
Mhm.
that we see you know, what we're projecting, what we think we're going to see.
Mhm.
So, being able to look at both sides, and one of the things we were talking about before, and with Bobby, uh, we really want to promote a movement of people really understanding their rights, as well as an active a movement to really get to the point where we restrict government and create some system that will never allow it to be manipulated again. But how do we do this? Well, there's got to be some way of having their books and their finances always available for the people to look. And I think that with technology, we should make it available. And I know you just,
Yeah, I gotta say something. The
yeah,
CB, what is it? CBCDC, the central bank digital coin or whatever. They want to put that
Fed
on
now
us,
coin,
on us, the people,
right,
and they'll be able to say, okay, you can go ahead and buy bread. You can buy this. Oh, you have
right.
diabetes. No, you're not allowed that big
Yeah,
soda,
whatever
and
political view you are,
we'll turn
you
that
have.
off. Or you don't have the right political beliefs, so you can't buy that particular thing. But you
Mm,
know what? If we just had it just
turn
for
it around.
yeah, just for the elected people, because
Right,
they always exempt themselves from Obamacare. They exempt themselves from, paying
right.
parking tickets or whatever. But yeah, this is one thing I'd like to see their
Used on them.
finances. Yes.
Well, Mike Maloney, I met that guy 20 years ago. He's a brilliant man and incredibly caring and giving, and would only just give his time to share his knowledge. And one of his videos on the hidden secrets of money, he talks about hashgraph and cryptocurrencies. And he was saying that cryptocurrencies could eventually, could be used to free the world or enslave it. It just depends upon how we use it. And in using, if we connect gold and silver to cryptocurrency, to a blockchain technology, we can monitor, well, we can transfer gold and silver without using the physical. But having the physical is a much better, tool that we use gold and silver in our hands, which actually silver, most people don't know if they're still, freaked out about COVID, is the best natural disinfectant.
Yeah, it's naturally antimicrobial.
Antibacterial, right. You can actually put the coins in your mouth and it won't really bother you, as opposed to the other coins. But if we hook up the monetary system to blockchain technology, we can transfer the ownership of the value sitting in a vault or in vaults in each state. So I think we could, we can absolutely monitor the money being sent to be used by the government for certain things that we approve of by a, we can either fund it by a crowd fund, but not by taxes. If they want something, we approve it by giving it to them. And if they don't get them all the money from it, fine. Doesn't happen.
Crowdfund government.
A crowd-funded government
Oh,
project.
I love that idea.
Have you ever heard of?
It'll never happen, but I love that idea.
Never say never.
Okay.
It could. Again, if we educate enough people, and it only takes 2%. Once 2% happens, the tipping point happens. I believe that's what Trump is actually trying to do. Destroy the central bank system by exposing the corruption. And he will go down as the greatest president ever, from taking on the worldwide central bank system, worldwide corruption, and human trafficking, the drug cartels, as well as the deep state in our own country. So I think by taking that on, and I can imagine he's already worked out a solution in listening to the X-22 report, which he, in terms of explaining the process that has happened and is unfolding, and the guy's naturally gifted in that way. It's very hopeful what's going to happen. But for the average person to understand, I carry, silver coins. I carry constitutional money in my pocket all the time, and literally bump into people on a daily basis out there when I'm buying something and whatnot, and go, "Do you understand what this is? Have you seen it before?" And then give them a basic comparison between the debt-based Federal Reserve notes that we pay taxes on and money that just is pure value, no tax.
Now,
Which
I've
one
heard
would you
though,
choose?
I've heard though that for the number of people that are in the world, now it may, maybe it'll do
There's
something
not
like that
enough.
virtual. That there would be, if everybody had an even amount, it would be less
Right.
than a gram of silver, if that was all
So what?
for the known amount.
Then that propaganda that it's too heavy to move around. Did you ever see that cryptocurrency commercial they put out, the Bitcoin commercial, I think around 2017? It was propaganda that with people pushing shopping carts of gold bars around. Who the hell would have that much in the first place? The average person doesn't. That would be hundreds of millions worth. So the average person, literally a dollar, an old Morgan dollar, is worth, going to the grocery store for 2 or 3 days worth of food. A dollar. This is all you needed for 2 or 3 days or a week's worth of food. You don't need much. And in terms of gold, probably maybe that would buy you a month's worth of food. So how much gold do you really need? But in terms of attaching the gold, a hard money system, gold and silver, you can transfer microns, a particle of a gram
But
is
then that still goes back then to you've got to trust the system, that you can't trust that it's doctored or manipulated or, hidden, a stash hidden aside.
Right. So how do we know? Well, audit it. Audit it. I was watching Ron Paul, over the years, especially right before and after he was running for president. He was questioning Bernanke, and Bernanke never answered his questions, directly. And then he also was questioning the guy who was supposedly auditing the gold. And he asked him, did you audit the gold in Fort Knox? Yep. Is it okay? What was your result? Well, the gold is safe. What does
How
that
much
mean?
is
Did
there?
you see the gold? Well, the vaults were sealed. Did you open them up? No, they're sealed. They've been sealed for 50 years. You've never opened them up. So how do you know it's there? Well, it's sealed. They haven't seen it. Nobody's seen it. So there are people that have seen it, but we don't know who they are. And it's possible that all the gold is gone. So, I mean, because when I was paying attention to the gold being repatriated into Germany years ago, and wondering that wanted their gold back, the Federal Reserve said, well, you can't come here and look at it. And then they sent them bars other than what they sent them. So it would seem that, the gold is not there, that there were new bars that were purchased and sent back. So the last thing is there's a group there were these two guys. I saw this one TED talk or a presentation. There are these two brothers who went to become attorneys. And then they realized, we really don't want to spend the rest of our life in court dealing with litigation. What can we do with our knowledge? And they started a website called openthebooks.com. And if you've never seen this, they're two brothers, and now they're a full-on organization suing each state government to get the finances. And they're showing on their website what a politician has campaigned for and the result of what they've done since they've been there by their finances, and showing how that 99% of politicians are 98% inefficient by suing to see the book. So however we go about designing, or, when this, stuff happens, and hopefully the Republicans take over, or conservatives, or all parties disappear, and we're just educated people going into government for no more than 2 years and then go back to our jobs, and that's how it used to be, to monitor what is being done, and that every cent from them is how they're spending it, not us. So we really got to turn the tables on them.
Yes, I
Does that
totally
make
agree
sense?
with that. Yes, I love that idea that crowdfunding government, that would
Yeah.
be fantastic.
Well, one of the things I heard when I was in Europe, there was a guy who's been trying to start his own country, and it's on like this island. It's not in the middle of the ocean. It's on a river, I think, east of Croatia, and in between, I think, Croatia and Belarus, and it's on a river. And then there's this little tiny sliver of this island, and he called it Liberland. And one country says it's not ours. He's got that confirmed. And the other country will say, well, I forget how they termed it, but he's got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people that want this to become a country. And the constitution he has is that everything is crowdfunded, that nothing happens in this country, a road or
How
nothing will
big is
be
this
built
island?
unless
How many people can possibly live on this thing?
Uh, hundreds of thousands if they're
Oh, it's
building
that
a
big.
building. It's like a mile to two. It's like half the size of Manhattan
Uh-huh.
or less.
Okay.
Manhattan's I think like 3 or 4 miles long and about a
Uh-huh.
mile and a half, 2 miles wide. And there's 10 million, 8 million people living on there. So it could be, but the thing is, it would be used mainly as not a place to live, but a country where corporations are created and businesses are started, where the regulations would be so much less. So it would be a
Right.
lot of, digital entrepreneurs and companies started, but it's still in the process. But the ideas of Liberland, if you've never seen it, the website's still up, are just great. But hopefully it would happen. But hopefully that would have, those ideas could be used for, for the United States and other countries.
You'll have to send me the links of some of these things that
Okay.
we've been talking about, because I wanna make sure it gets in the description.
Okay.
So people
Will
that
do.
are hearing it and they're like, "What was that again?" Then just go down to the description and we'll have that there and you can click on that. But, please also make sure that you follow Stephen here if you're, looking down there. There will be a link to Stephen's, current,
Current.
YouTube channel, and I'm sure that if, he goes somewhere from there, then he'll have links on that
Yeah, for
channel as
sure.
well. Well, thank you very much, Stephen, again for joining us,
Thank
and
you.
we will catch you next week. Make sure again that you are subscribing,
Awesome.
hit that notification bell, and we will catch you next time. God bless. Thanks so much for watching my interview with Stephen of Sweet Home Freedom. Next up, if you go on over to This Way Network, you will see my most current episode that I just did with Osiris from Stuck in the Middle. And he definitely has some different perspective of from what I have been interviewing here lately. He's more stuck in the middle. But he is definitely a person to listen to, and I definitely want to share his channel. Make sure that you subscribe to him as well. Though he is a bigger channel than me, he doesn't really need much help from me. But for those of you that may not have been introduced to him yet, go on over there and subscribe. You won't be disappointed. He goes into depth in a lot of different current events and well researched. God bless, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.